Yeah, I think that's very true words there. And you mentioned earlier on how you're a business owner on your own, and then within a big organisation, you've generally got people to go and talk to. But regardless, if you're a business owner, the CEO suite, if you look at, they don't have so many people to go and talk to. And you come down the structure, and sometimes the employees are shy to talk to each other. I think it's a massive impact in today's climate. There's a lot of talk about the mental health of everybody and the individuals, where it should be about talking about the positive health for everybody and driving that mindset through. I mean, it goes to show this whole situation's affected everybody, from somebody like yourself, who's a fantastic influencer, leader, adventurer, a go-getter, to who's always got a positive mindset in all sorts of hardships, to everybody who's not at that necessarily at that level. But opening up and talking to people is very important in what we talk about. And I think you're right, within the view ahead, 12 months ahead, that was a big ask. You know, sometimes I can't plan 12 hours, 12 days, you know, so 12 months is a big ask, 12 weeks maybe, but yeah, it's a challenge. And when you've got so many dynamics in play, it's absolutely fantastic to see that how you've transitioned into the virtual world and what you deliver on that. And if anybody's out there wanting to have somebody talk about crisis leadership, crisis management, leadership in general, then Grant comes extremely highly recommended. I've sat through several of his presentations, and on that, it's great. So earlier on, you mentioned a couple of lows where you had climbing Everest and going across the seas. What were the highs that you've managed to take away? And I think there was one saying I remember you saying about the weather and the sun coming up, and keep rowing. Can you reflect on what that one may be?
Well, there is. I think what you're referring to there is basically when we were rowing from Singapore to Australia, and during that 3-month period, often there would be these massive electrical storms which would come through in the early hours of the morning, from about 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Lightning smashing down into the water all around the boat. Very little you can do to it when you're 100 miles offshore in a tiny rowing boat moving at about 2 knots. And you know, those are the times, they're the lows, where if you could push a magic button, then you would be off the expedition. You know, you would end it and be like, I want to be home. There's no more romance in this expedition at all. But of course, there was no magic button on the boat. And we had this slogan that was, row you bastards, row, no storms ever last. And it was just a reminder to us, you know, that during those tough times, that, you know, those storms, they last for 30, 45 minutes at the most. And it's not the right time to make strategic decisions about the future of your projects, of your expeditions in the middle of one of those storms. Because a few hours later, every single one of those 78 days, the sun would come out, right? And when the sun comes out, for me, it always brought hope. It always brought a completely different mindset, you know, and I changed from, you know, being this scared person, hating where I was 2 or 3 hours earlier, wanting to end everything, just to thinking about possibilities, looking forward again, being in the wonder, you know, one of the most wondrous places on earth, and in exploring Mother Nature. So yeah. Every single day when the sun came out was some very special days. Getting to Everest on my second attempt would always be a very special moment for me, Darren. But I think probably overall, one of the biggest, highest moments for me, and it's not really a moment, it's a period of my life, is right now. Because about 4 years ago, I made this massive life-changing decision to quit my job in the corporate world, to mount this massive expedition for $500,000 to travel from Singapore to New Zealand, and then try and set up my own business, and then have twins at the same time as well. So there's a few things going on in the background at the same time. But, you know, I sat down with my wife before this expedition, like 2 years before we set off on the expedition, because it took a long time to plan and prepare for. And I told her that I had this plan. What did she think about it? And I told her that I believe that this expedition has the ability to change our family's life for the better. But I said, the only problem is I don't know exactly how. I just have this belief. And my wife agreed with me at the time. She said she also didn't know how it was going to change, but she agreed. She supported it. And I went away on this expedition. And when I came back and made this decision to set up my business, it was incredible that all the setbacks and the things that went wrong and the failures that went on during this expedition, I realized I had this gold mine of stories, of experiences to tell and share. And that has literally been the gold nuggets of my business, is storytelling, is relating these difficult experiences. What happens when you make decisions based in certain circumstances in certain ways? What are the outcomes? And it is an enormously fulfilling for me and my wife to see that our life has changed so much for the better now. We have a thriving business. I work from home. I'm with the girls every single day, every single night. A relationship with the wife, now she's working from home as well. We spend a lot of time together. It has changed our life so much for the better. But it was a very courageous decision on her behalf, and it felt very scary for me at the time. But sometimes we just have to go with what we believe in and keep pushing on until we see it through. So that's probably one of the most fulfilling things in my entire life so far.
I think that tops it all, and would do for anybody who make that leap in what they want to do, in their passion and what they want to achieve in their life. And it's fantastic you had your wife's support, and obviously the two girls as well. And I guess when you're out on these exhibitions, your wife is a rock, I guess, is she? How do you?
Absolutely. I couldn't do this without my wife's her blessings, but also her support when I'm out and when I'm away on the trip. So I normally bring a sat phone with me. I'll speak to her about once a day at a predetermined time, normally for about 2 or 3 minutes only. And those calls are definitely for my benefit, not hers. She's very busy, of course, running. She's doing the hard job back here. They are for my benefit. They literally keep me sane. And if it wasn't for her calming influence, if she was there shouting at me or screaming at me or nagging at me, then there's no way that I'd be able to continue. She really is a rock, and that strength is a huge asset.
And that just brings one more element into the highs, the lows, the leadership traits, and what you've done, the development, and it's very important of communications, and the communications are good in the dangerous areas you've been, from the support crew that you've been working with, I guess, but also back to your family and your friends as well. So that's just highlights, I think, the point that communications is always a must-have, and good communications with it too.
Absolutely. So just on that note, there's two parts here, Darren. Say one is communication, and the other one is trust. And when I'm away from home for these long periods, my communication with my wife, the way we communicate, I actually feel closer to her during this period. But at this time, when everyone is working from home, especially when you don't have that face-to-face stuff, there is no need for you to drift apart. It takes more effort, for sure. You have to have communication protocols in place and be disciplined and stick to those. But you can still become stronger through your communication, even though you're not in the same place. The second part about this is trust, and if you have these communication protocols set up, and I'm sure you know about this in from your backgrounds as well, if people break communication protocols, or they don't stick to them, or they're not disciplined when you're working in intense environments, when you're not in the same locations, that destroys trust very, very quickly in relationships. And that's to be avoided at all costs. One thing my wife always tells me when she leaves, when people say, "Why do you let him go?" She says this one thing: because she trusts that I will make the right decisions at the right time to always come home. And for me, the motivation that I have to always come home when she trusts me like that is 1,000,000 times stronger than her saying, you better come home very quickly. You better not do anything wrong. You better, no. You know, it's the positive side of the trust that she gives me is just incredibly powerful in terms of motivation.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think just to reflect there, I mean, you've covered a couple of key words that land on me quite well, is that you need to be agile in today's climate. You need to be very agile in what the decision making you have to do. You don't make the decisions during a storm. You wait for the sun come up. Trust is extremely important. And one thing is humility. I think humility, and I think you'd agree with that, being very humble, if you like, and having that humility towards others, and not being, there's too many leaders out there that are gun-ho, boastful, and all the rest of it, where actually they're very, underneath, they're very shallow. How do you feel about that sort of, that word, humility?
I mean, you literally define what humility is. You're an extremely humble person. And I think it's one of the qualities which unfortunately is missing in so many leaders these days. I couldn't echo your words more strongly. You know, unfortunately though, Darren, it's only human nature when the world becomes extremely VUCA, extremely volatile, extremely uncertain, extremely complex, exactly like it is at the moment. Human beings always look to one thing. They look for that bold, courageous, confident voice. And we all know who that bold, courageous, the prime example of that is in one country in the world now, right? Someone who stands up there and says, don't worry, follow me. I know what to do. I'll get you out of this, okay? They all look to that because they're the one thing that they're lacking is certainty. And those leaders who have very much a lack of humility, but stand up, who can speak in the most bold, overconfident voices, are the ones that people are naturally drawn to. When in fact, in terms of decision-making in complex environments, it's exactly the wrong thing to do. We know that to make effective decisions in these environments, we need to harness cognitive diversity. To make effective decisions in complex environments, it doesn't matter how individually intelligent you are, you never have enough intelligence to solve complex problems. So we need to harness team intelligence, get people involved with diverse opinions to have any hope of making effective decisions in complex environments. So naturally following those leaders with no humility, who stand up there and boast about how they'll lead everyone out of this, is not going to lead us out of this. And this is where the concept of humility comes in for me, is being humble enough as a leader to say, my job is not to know the way, show the way, and go the way. My job is to get the right people involved in here to help us make the most effective decisions as a team to work through this.
Yeah, excellent words. Thanks so much for that sharing as well. I think maybe I'm wrong, but when your first expedition to Mount Everest, was there a leader like that, or was it something else that made that trip not so good?
There was a lack of diversity in the team decision making, on the cognitive diversity. On the first Everest expedition, you know, it was what I call a highly structured team decision-making environment, with one person making all of the decisions on behalf of the team. And I use this as a great example, you know, that in complex environments, one person making the decisions on behalf of everybody is not very effective. It has many limitations, and that's why anyone who's trying to make complex decisions at this time really needs to learn and understand about the power of team intelligence and cognitive diversity versus individual intelligence.
Very much so. And communicating with the team around you and getting all their buy-in for the decisions that have to be made, particularly in today's climate. Yeah. Just as before we wrap up, one of my favorite messages basically is cheerfulness in the face of adversity. And you obviously show a lot of that when you are out climbing the mountains, rowing across the sea, cycling across Australia, which we haven't covered in today's talk. But there is so much cheerfulness in what you do when you're faced with that adversity. And in today's climate, again, that's something that holds strong with me. Is so many negatives, there's so many challenges that we all face. And maintaining that cheerfulness, doesn't matter what you're being faced with, is very powerful. Very hard to do, but very powerful for helping you get over the challenges and the decisions that have to be made.
Yeah, so I do have some quite strong opinions on the difference between optimism and being happy all the time. I don't think that people need to be happy all the time at this particular time. It's very, very important for your mental health and for other people's mental health that some days you can say, Darren, I feel like shit today. I'm not having a good day. This is not going very well. The last thing that you need when someone approaches you and says that is like, just be happy. Come on, cheer up. It's not that bad. We know from a coaching perspective that very often people just need to be heard. You don't even have to come up with solutions for them. They just want some empathy. They just want a listening ear. So yes, it's very important to be optimistic. Yes, it's very important to never lose hope or never lose belief. It's okay to have a bad day every now and again and feel a bit rough and find people who you can really, talk about it. And you don't, like I say, you don't need those people to come up with an answer for you. Sometimes you just need them to say, man, that sounds tough. That sounds awful. I can really see how that would be a bummer. Pat them on the back, have a hug, whatever, do whatever you need to do, but just be there to support and listen.
Yeah, definitely. And making a joke out of a tough decision or a tough situation, even if it's sensitive in making that joke, but sometimes it's the mindset of the individuals, their characters, and not everybody gets the same playbook. So everybody's slightly different. Well, thank you very much, Grant. I think it's been excellent and fantastic to have this chat with you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the viewers before we wrap up? And from your experience and maybe what as an example, you mentioned earlier you took that leap into developing and going for your own business. Before you did that, you had to do this these challenges of rowing across the oceans. So what advice would you give to somebody today who's actually stuck, they're not sure what they want to do, but they actually feel they want to do their own business?
Whoa, starting up your own business, if you look at the statistics, there is a pretty, they're not in your favor. Yeah. They're definitely not in your favor. Just because you think it's a good idea, it's not really that important. It depends what other people think is a good idea. So look, I think one of the biggest factors on my decision making that I could share with people in terms of something to think about and reflect if you're going to set up your own business or you're going to make any big decision in your life is this concept of reversible decisions. Is your decision reversible or not? So let me give you an example. Before I made this, what I call a courageous decision to leave the corporate world and go set up my own business, I was extremely concerned about this decision. Spent a lot of time thinking about it until I asked myself this one question: is the decision reversible or not? By leaving the corporate world, can I go back and join the corporate world after 1 year and it doesn't work out? And then when I thought, yes, absolutely, why not? And when I thought of it like that, I was like, well, what's the risk then? What's the danger? Your appetite to risk and danger will change immensely if you understand whether a decision is reversible or not reversible. So think about your decisions like that. If they're not reversible, then they're serious decisions. But if they are reversible, go and do it right now because you haven't got anything to lose.
Yeah. Have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, but make sure you have those different options as well. Yeah, very good. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Grant. Thank you very much for your time. And we look forward to seeing you expand your business in the online talks and presentations you do. And as I said, Grant comes highly recommended in his crisis leadership, his sharing of his stories and how you can implement those methods and those techniques in your business or your life. Thank you very much, Grant.
Thank you, Darren. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.